My daughter Isla was 10 years old, and when she was 6 years old, she was diagnosed with autism. The 6 years before that and the 4 years after that were a roller coaster ride of life that we never could have anticipated. And I think that each person, every mom, every dad, every parent, when this happens in your life, everybody has a different journey to acceptance and to finding peace in that. And I don't mean peace like I'm okay with it. I mean peace, true peace about embracing what your child is and knowing how to move forward. For me, it took almost 9 years. And so throughout the course of this time, when Isla was about 9 years old, I decided to write a book. And the book was mainly to tell this story to my children who were younger. And when I wrote this book, I wrote it only for family. And so as family and friends started to read it, they wanted to share with other people too. And eventually, I noticed that, once it was done, and a lot of the themes in the book, one of the big ones was this whole feeling of being alone. I had so much family, I had so many friends, I had a wonderful husband and a strong marriage, and there was so many moments that I felt so alone in this whole, making decisions in all of the feelings that I was feeling. And so I thought, I wonder if other mothers will relate to the same story. And so I started to find moms in my area that also had children with autism. This was usually because a friend or a family member would recommend them to me. And I gave them my book, which at that time was just a manuscript, and they would read it. They would feel comfortable sharing with me because they had already read my story, and then we would meet. We would meet at Starbucks and we would share stories. They would tell me theirs. And then I decided to share their story for them. So I started the website and the blog, the M.o.C.H.A Tribe Diaries and the M.o.C.H.A Tribe, which is moms of children that have autism. So we would have mochas with the M.o.C.H.A, and it was called the M.o.C.H.A Session. And so this went on for about 8 months, over the course of a year, and every month I would meet with somebody different. And when I got to the number 8, number 9 was me, the book was released. I knew that I couldn't sustain that each month. It was a little difficult to do, just timing-wise, and because I had a full-time job and kids. And so I thought, what if we created the ultimate M.o.C.H.A session? One day where we could all come together and everybody share stories instead of just one-on-one. And I didn't know what that looked like at the time, but over the course of the last few months, I've put something together that I've dreamed of for quite a long time. And so this day is not a conference, it is not educational or informational. It is a wellness retreat to touch on the areas of wellness that I think moms a lot of times either consciously or subconsciously ignore because of the reality of the lives that we have. When Isla was 9 or 10 years old and I was done with this book, when I began to create a website and a blog, and I wanted to do a nonprofit, and I started having all of these dreams, I started to look for mentors online, women that had created spaces like this, women that had been in situations where they wanted to make something powerful and good of something that happened to them in their life. And as I went to conferences and as I listened to people, there was messages that just didn't resonate with me. There was messages they were giving. This was a lot of people, women and men, that didn't seem to relate to me as a special needs mother. One of those big ones was this idea of no excuses. I would go to a motivational conference and they would say, if you have a dream, no excuses, wake up earlier. If you want to fight for something, or you want to write a book, or you want to lose weight, no excuses, work harder. And there's this idea that as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking of the mother that I sat across from at Starbucks one time that told me that every night at 2 or 3 in the morning, her son wakes up, he has autism, and he bangs every single cabinet in the home. I'm thinking of the mother that told me at 4 in the morning for almost 2 weeks straight, her child with autism was fecal smearing in the bathroom. So you're talking about a mom that would wake up at 4 in the morning and clean feces from walls, from curtains, from cabinets, and you're gonna tell that mom to just wake up earlier, to work out, tell that mom that no excuses, work harder? It just didn't seem right. It seemed wrong and like not the right message. then you would have the same speakers and the same people that would say, you know, maybe you just had a newborn, so you can't wake up early, you know, or maybe it's not that season of your life that you can go for your dream, but you can later. Well, what about us? There are some special needs mothers that have children with autism, and there's no seasons, you know, there's no seasons of life. This is our season. This may be the reality for forever. And so to tell that person, you know, that there's no excuses and work harder and wake up earlier, just didn't seem to fit. So I thought, if I can't find something that was made for me, the least I can do is create it and see how that goes, see what that does for other women and myself, and to build a community and a fellowship with each other.
One of my relatives reached out to me and said, Mandy, you should follow this girl on Instagram. You know, she's starting, you know, this, I want to call it a revolution because, you know, she's going to go far. I think it was exactly what moms like me needed. We had nowhere to go to where there were other moms like us, you know, where we didn't have to explain why we felt a certain way. They just get us.
This is one of those days that we need to start sharing. If today is as impactful as I really have prayed and believe that it will be, we're going to want to share this and we're going to want to grow this. I can already tell just the energy in the room is so amazing, having everybody here. So these are the hashtags I want y'all to use on social media. I realized when I was making the documents for this thing that the acronym is TUMS. It's the Ultimate M.o.C.H.A session. So I'm like, it's TUMS for the soul, guys. It's so cheesy. It's so cheesy and so good. So we're gonna use TUMS for the soul. And if nobody knows what we're talking about, it's totally fine, because once they're in the M.o.C.H.A tribe, they'll know what that means. So I think that we can all agree that we have all had or been around or seen or talked to doctors and therapists that are well-researched, that know what they're doing, that have great information and give us great resources. But we have also been around many doctors and therapists that don't. Agreed? Yes. So the important thing here is that while I do understand that we have to trust, right? Sometimes we have to trust the experts. It has been critical in my life to be an active participant in the decision making. And the only way that I can be an active participant is if I know my stuff. That's basically it. So intellectual wellness becomes very important when it comes to very important decisions that we're making, that we blindly trust people. And I've talked to a lot of mothers that really don't do it on purpose. We assume a lot of times that the experts are experts. And the difference is that we are experts in our children, and they are experts in the diagnosis.
Usually when I do this talk, I'm trying to teach people about how to identify the functions of behavior. And then once you've identified the function, how do you choose the interventions? That's not my goal this morning. I'm going to give you some handouts for that later that list some of that information. But what I want to do today is hopefully talk about behavior in a way that will just help you maybe look at some of the behavior you see in your own children in a way that takes a little bit of the pressure off yourself, right? So you have a little better understanding of it and just feel a little more able to address it, because I know through the number of families I've had the great fortune and privilege to work with over the years, how difficult and what a challenge that can be for families.
Me being able to take care of her physically is a big part. I have to be strong. But I also heard in my circle, and I hear little murmurs around me, that we feel like we're last. We take care of ourselves last. I learned in that moment in November that I had to learn to do something for myself that came first. What good are you to your family if you're broken. When you're broken, they're not getting your best. They're getting the leftovers.
I think what I've learned so much is that talking to someone like they're your equal or your friend or your peer, the moment you talk to them like a child, you're degrading them and their age and their world. And so talking to them like a peer is
There are times when it's very, very difficult. What many people know about our lives, because Emma's so public, is that that I have a deaf child. So they understand that. But what many of you, and probably most of the people, and probably most people do not know, is I also have a son who has severe OCD and anxiety. And to kind of give you a difference, I kind of got double whammy. So I think God thinks I'm just really, I know this is a spiritual talk, but I think he thinks I'm a badass, to be honest. I think he's
because a good friend of mine, she read the book in a class, and for my birthday last month, she decided to give it to me because my daughter is diagnosed with autism. I think this event is beautiful because outside of events like this, you don't know or you don't come in contact very often with moms that have children with disabilities, or at least it's not something that's spoken out loud when you speak to one another. I think this event brings moms together and allows us a moment to be vulnerable with one another and kind of speak to each other and share one another's stories.
Life-changing for me in many different levels because we don't get to be or talk to mothers that go through this, what we're going through very often, and sharing experiences really helps us heal from the pain and the difficulties we face on a daily basis.
This event really impacted me because I was able to learn a lot from other mothers here. I came in here wanting to learn more and hear other people's stories.
I think it was very impactful in the sense that it just gives the moms hope and remember that they are not alone in this journey. There are other women out there, other moms.
The load that I was carrying kind of lifted because there were other people who felt almost exactly the way I felt, that had the same experiences almost exactly.
It's really awesome for mothers who don't really have time for themselves to gather and to hear other stories that they can relate. Children on the spectrum, they can all be different, but there are also some similarities, and I believe that an event like this is important for a mother's wellness, for their own mental health, and for their child's well-being.
Definitely, I found my new tribe, like people I'm going to pick up the phone or Facebook and contact them right away because I have more people. My tribe has just grown. So.